Alright, that's the theme music over. Almost started on time today, which is very rare. Excuse me, just had a glass of Dr. Pepper, so that's going to be fun to deal with during the stream. Sorry, guys. It's gonna be that. That was a bad idea all around. Just trying to see if there's any last minute additions worth adding to the stream, and so it's just easier for me to make content during the week. Apart from seeing stuff about the new Dragon Ball anime, there's not much really going. Ooh, Starmer's net approval ratings are minus 24%. Banger. I'll tell you what, the quality of LBC callers has really gone downhill post-election. Tell you that for free. Jesus Christ, man. Wait, what? European farmers mobilising on the worst political issue you've ever heard of in your life. Yeah, there's a lot about Labour versus farmers. Honestly, I've got a lot of stories to discuss, so I'm actually quite excited for that. This one's a banger meme. Let's see, is there anything else? There's not a ton else, just some people blaming. Wait, what? Nah, that's a bit. Oh, that's nice art. Yeah, nah, not much else going on. I guess we'll start the stream. Oh no, Max posted a Stalin meme. Oh no. Ugh, it's the funniest format of Stalin memes as well. The one where he makes people disappear from photos. Um. Oh, Australia. I mean, not Australia. Argentina slashing import tariffs. Interesting. Um. Okay, that's a bold strategy, Con. It's one way to destroy your domestic production. I'll tell you that for free. It's one really strong way of killing your domestic production, but it's a bold strategy, Con. Let's see how that plays off for him. Jesus Christ! North Korea executed 12 young men for playing League of Legends. Oh no, guys, it might be over for me. It might actually be over. No, farmers are against. Okay, here we go. Last edition. Yeah, there we go. No, go here. All right, cool. That's the last one we're gonna add. Because I want to get this stream started. Because ironically, I do actually want to play League of Legends. So, let's start from here. Argentina, another country. Yeah, that's true. One second, I'm just gonna cough, guys. Bear with. I'm just gonna mute this. That's better. Always a bad idea to stream after I eat something. But yeah, no, they are run by he's not a clown. He's the entire circus. But I'm not gonna say that to his face. So what we'll start with is some like miscellaneous ones. Then we'll go to like the big topics. So yeah, there's a lot. There's actually a lot to discuss this week. If it felt very quiet actually, but yeah, that's what happens when you let economic decline set in. Though bad things happen when you take voters away from like a normal kind of the basic policies. Like cost of living and stuff like that. And the only ones who are promoting that they'll deal with cost of living are the lunatics. Or how do you think it's going to go? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, let's start discussing this because yeah, there's no way I'm going to be on at 9:30. So let's start with Penny Mordaunt, discussing, not ruling out a future return to politics. Really.
Well, how have you adapted to civilian life, as it were? And are you going to be back if there's a by-election? Will you maybe throw your hat in the ring?
I don't think that politics and I are done. I would obviously.
She's going to start a podcast, isn't she? She's actually. I think this lot, right, wants to leave politics to get bored and they want to start discussing it. So she's going to be on a podcast. The question is, which podcast network's going to get her? That's the real question.
I would love to come back. This business is largely luck and timing, and all you can do is be ready. But you also don't need letters after your name to be of service. So I'm going to be doing. There'll be some announcements in the coming week. I will be doing things that are wholly in the service of this country, its communities, its voluntary sector, and for it being a force for good around the world.
What kind of areas? Give us a clue.
Well, helping people who take responsibility for things, helping businesses that are doing amazing philanthropic work, helping grassroots charities and communities who are solving problems and doing amazing things and taking care of people, and also helping us get to grips with some of the big challenges we have as a nation.
But it sounds like
I think, ironically, you guys in charge of the Conservative Party did give us a lot of those big challenges, so nice.
next time there's a by-election, if you get a chance, you'll chuck your hat in the ring. And then looking forward, you haven't ruled out standing for the leadership again, have you?
Well, look, I think we need to focus on the job that's here, and I haven't disappeared from helping the Conservative Party. I've been helping during the leadership contest prepare some things for CCHQ for the new leader. And look, I think Kemi has all the right ingredients and the opportunity right now.
She's been getting cooked in PMQs. Like, you have Starmer, who's minus 24%. You're going to see Kemi Badenoch's approval rating fall the more the public see of her. She's not a good candidate. You guys should have gone with Tugendhat. Tugendhat was the guy you should have won it. You should have went with, or even Cleverly. The fact that you went with the worst candidate is crazy.
To really be a superstar.
Did you vote for her? Because I know you didn't endorse any of the candidates.
I'm not saying. But
Did you vote in the final round?
100% she did not. She did not vote for Kemi Badenoch.
I did.
Oh, you're very happy.
You voted for Generic.
I'm very happy with the result,
right.
and I was talking to Kemi and Robert throughout the whole contest, and giving them my best advice.
What do you say? You're trash, Kemi. You're trash, Robert.
But I'm very happy with the result.
I need to get that on the soundboard.
I've been having discussions with her team, and I'm doing everything I can to help her, because I think that very sadly unbelievably actually, Labour have come in without really a notion of what they want to do, and they're penalising again people who take responsibility.
I mean, that's not really true, is it? I mean, raising capital gains tax on people who make money from shares. Not really seeing that. So I want to discuss this clip. Actually, I found really interesting. Penny talking about poor people again, take responsibility, blockhead. Yeah, she's a bit of a blockhead. Sucking up to Kemi. I don't think she'll be that keen on having Penny back. Should be a threat. Yeah, I think she would be. What's the media's obsession with giving ghouls a platform? I don't know. I think they're just big names who are desperate to talk. Like, how is Jonathan Ashworth on every other show? Like, if I got the chance to interview Jonathan Ashworth, this is the thing I'd ask him.
Are you feeling?
Is this it? I can't hear the audio from it.
Are you feeling angry, humiliated?
Does he feel angry and humiliated? He lost to an independent candidate. That's what I'd ask him, because I would be. If I was in a safe seat and I lost my safe seat because all I did was saber rattle against minorities in the community, right? I'd be embarrassed, but that's just me. Some people don't feel shame, I'll tell you actually what we're lacking in society some days. This is the thing. This is the thing we're lacking. It's gonna make me I don't know. This is what we're lacking in society nowadays. What happened to shame? This right here. This is what we're lacking when it comes to politicians, especially. Like, you lost. Take your L. Go do something else. Go be something. Go do something with your life.
All I'm saying is that there is a real danger here if we simply say, yes, all right, as Ukrainians have been coming to Britain, so the people from Gaza.
So this is really interesting, actually, the case against having a refugee scheme for people in Gaza. And I didn't actually think about this angle of it before. There's a reason why countries in the region don't want to take people from Gaza, and it's not just the logistics of it or dealing with refugees within your area either. It goes beyond that.
Can come, and we're happy if they stay. I think politically that will set up tensions in the Middle East, which we don't want to do. I know it seems feeble, because the easiest way is to say let's replicate the Ukrainian scheme. In some respects we might, but if we open the door too widely, then what we're simply saying to people from Gaza is, you can leave Gaza and come here, and there'll be fewer Palestinians left. And the Palestinians politically
Does that
don't
not
want that to
apply?
happen.
I mean, I appreciate.
So what he's talking about is right to return, and what Israel have consistently blocked is people's right to return.
The situations are different, and of course, you're right. There are sensitivities around Gaza and the Middle East that there weren't in Ukraine. But you could make the same argument, couldn't you? That if we just let all the Ukrainians come here, then that is effectively sort of
It would help in a sense, yes.
handing Putin more control of Ukraine.
Well, we're talking about many, many more Ukrainians than there are people in Gaza, and we're also. I mean, Putin isn't saying the Ukrainians should disappear; he just wants to conquer them. So I don't think there's quite the parallel. All I'm saying is it's a sensitive issue.
Yeah.
When I first raised it some time ago, I was attacked very much by people who said I'm just trying to help in the ethnic cleansing of
Right.
Gaza,
Right.
and so I'm being cautious and saying we have to be very careful. And I repeat what I said earlier, that people should come to this country for medical help as a temporary measure. We can give them medical help, and then they ought to have the right of returning to Gaza. And
The UN does mandate a right to return as well, but Israel have consistently blocked that because they know that if they let too many people from, essentially the people whose homes were taken come back to occupied parts of Israel, it would change the demographics and they would struggle. These kind of right-wing parties would struggle a lot more in elections. So this is actually a really interesting video here from the Refugee Council, and so it did change my views quite a lot on this subject. So yeah, good interview, or good interviewee, should I say? I don't know if this clip's in Ukrainian. It could be.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, України.
Jesus Christ, that's the first time I think I've heard his voice. That is a deep voice for a small man. Why are they showing a photo of Alex Ferguson? Because this man here's the GOAT. So essentially what we've got here is... sorry, his voice has really thrown me off there. So Chancellor Scholz, this is from Zelensky. Chancellor Scholz told me that he planned to call Putin. His call, in my opinion, opens Pandora's box. There may now be other conversations on phone calls, just a lot of words. This is exactly what Putin has long sought. It is critical for him to weaken his isolation as well as Russia's isolation, and to hold mere talks that will lead nowhere. He has been doing this for decades. This has allowed Russia to avoid making any changes to its policies, effectively doing nothing, which has ultimately led to the war. We understand all the current challenges and we know what to do. We want to make it clear there will be no Minsk 3. We need real peace. And so it's actually quite interesting, Roshan. There is another article that is worth discussing about Zelensky. And so what you have here is, I think Putin, essentially, he's going to try and isolate certain countries, because Germany has taken a big economic hit, and I think that is partly down to the sanctions as well, in terms of the oil sanctions on Russia, because Germany was so reliant on trade with Russia, but also, the energy sector as well. That's one of the major problems they've run into, and it's really hampering their manufacturing because, like it or not, I don't think Angela Merkel put them in a strong position in terms of energy security. Because the idea was that the more you trade with a country, the less chance you have of going to war with that country, which is true, yes. But it also means, like, when a third country is invaded, it makes you paralyzed because you're reliant on trade as well. And so that's something the liberal order didn't really take into account when they came up with this idea of countries that trade with each other wouldn't really fight each other. That's the big stumbling block kind of in that equation. And so the German economy is not doing well, especially with elections coming up as well, which is something we'll discuss. So Olaf Scholz speaks to Putin for the first time in 2 years. So Olaf Scholz has spoken to Putin as Western powers position for the return of the Trump administration in the US that has made ending the Ukraine war a priority. So I think Europe is not confident we can kind of help Ukraine without America's help, because America has, given a lot of weapons to Israel, like a lot. So I can see where Europeans are coming from. I think we should have done more to prepare. But the problem is no one saw Trump coming the first time, and no one's seen it the second time. Scholz has been such a bad... Yeah, he's a complete fraud. He's a complete fraud. Honestly, he's not good. He's not good at all. Mujtaba Rahman saying, important to note, Scholz's call with Putin is not simply about Trump, it's also about domestic context, electoral race. Scholz wants to position himself as the peace chancellor. risky cowboy, instead of the risky cowboy warmonger adventurer, because I think he's got to show people like there is a way out of kind of Germany's economic decline, and so maybe him saying like, we're going to end the war and things are going to be better for German people. Maybe he thinks that's the right way to go. I don't know what the AfD have been saying regarding the war. So if anyone does know, that would be quite interesting, because it's possible they're also saying that they're going to end the war as well, or at least Germany's kind of limited involvement in it. So it'd be quite interesting to see what's going to happen with that. But you can see kind of a split within Europe. I think, Macron's more than happy to keep helping Ukraine, whereas clearly Germany, just like they have been over the last few years, really are very reluctant to do much. Especially given that that they are a major problem in this equation, outside of the two warring parties. So I don't have a lot of respect for Olaf Scholz. I don't think anyone really respects Olaf Scholz. I don't think they're too keen on the war. The AfD. See, if the AfD are saying they're going to stop the war or put an end to it, right? This explains why Olaf Scholz has taken this position, especially. Oops. So you got Zelensky saying war will end sooner with Trump as president. So clearly Zelensky's factored in, like, they are going to have to come to the negotiating table effectively, because there's no end to this war until Russia backs down or there's a peace treaty. That's it. Unless somehow the Ukrainian military take all the way up to Moscow, they occupy Moscow somehow, or there's an internal revolt. That's the only way this war ends, is through negotiations. Zelensky had a constructive exchange with Trump during their phone call. He did not say whether Trump had made any demands regarding possible talks with Russia, but said he's not heard anything from him that was contrary to Ukraine's position. Trump has consistently said his priority was to end the war, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, and that he describes as a drain on US resources in the form of military aid to Kyiv, which is not 100% wrong on, but it was also generated a lot of money for the American war industry as well. War as a business, effectively. If you look at here, the US is committed to send around $55 billion, $55.5 billion, which is just crazy money. And you can see why voters would say, why can't you spend that money, domestically in America? Domestic support for arming Ukraine appears to have waned somewhat since the war began, particularly among Republican voters who Trump successfully courted. I do wonder if the Americans gave better weapons from the start and really gave Ukraine a fighting chance, would they be in a better position now, rather than slow rolling and giving all this expensive weaponry that's very, generationally very old. Trump does the classic "I'm going to end the war," but doesn't explain how. So we don't know what exactly he's going to do. He added that Ukraine must do everything so that the war ends next year, ends through diplomatic means, with Russian forces making advances on the battlefield. So I think that's Donald Trump saying this. So again, it's going to be interesting to see. Russian forces occupy entrenched positions in the east and southeast of the country, with fighting predominantly taking place in the Donbass. On Friday, Russian forces made incremental advances along the eastern front line, with significant fighting taking place around the northeastern city of Kupiansk and Volodar, I think that's pronounced, in the southeast, according to the Institute of Study of War. I think if I were the Russians now, I would just entrench where they are, because the land that they've taken, most likely they'll keep in negotiations. If I was a betting man, that's what I would do anyways, because I think that's how it's going to go down. I think Putin can say, I wanted to protect Russian speakers within Ukraine. These are the areas where there are a lot of Russian speakers, people who might identify as Russian or close to Russia, and I wanted to protect them because the Ukrainian government hasn't been doing that. I think if that's the angle he wants to take, I think that's what would make the most sense. But again, I don't know. And I say that the territory Ukraine holds in Kursk may serve as a bargaining chip in any peace talks. Zelensky's victory plan, revealed last month, said the offensive will continue to avoid the creation of buffer zones within Ukraine. I think that was a genius move on his part, taking that land within Russia. But I don't think, because of the way the landscape's gone, I don't think it's gonna help them that much. Renewed emphasis on the diplomatic solution comes amid concerns of a growing fatigue over the war. This war has been raging on for about 2 years now, in full-scale fashion. Trump and Zelensky have long held a tumultuous relationship. Trump was impeached in 2019 over accusations he pressured Zelensky to dig up damaging information on Biden's family. Despite years of differences, Trump has insisted he has a good relationship with Zelensky. To be fair, though, Zelensky can't criticize Trump anyways, because of how important American aid is. Those anti-tank weapons are very important for, against Russia, a country that predominantly relies on tanks. So again, we'll see how this works out. It's going to be very interesting, to say the least. And this is, German elections on the 23rd of February. Hard to articulate how important these will be for Germany, Europe, and Ukraine. So yeah, this is Hennig talking about, do you have any good analysis of how the AfD and other pro-peace/surrender parties will do? This guy's saying, don't worry, the AfD will win a majority. I'm very worried, mate. I'm very worried if they do win. Ukraine is going to end up a one-up position. Excuse me, that's possible. It's possible that that could happen, yeah. I think Russia will just look at expanding the areas they'll have. They won't. Whether it will be internationally recognised or not is one thing, but I think for sure they're going to keep the areas that they've taken in any negotiations with Donald Trump. That would be my bet. I could be wrong on that, but they also need something to show for this war as well. Given the massive amounts of losses within Russia, the human wave attacks, there is a lost generation in both of these countries, in Ukraine as well as Russia. There's a lost generation of men here who have died in this war, and that will have a massive impact on Russia's economy long term. They need something to show for it. I think what we'll see in a few years' time is a massive opening of Russian borders to immigration, especially from certain parts of Asia and areas like that, because a lot of men have been killed in this war, and Russia's population is not doing great as is. So I think that's what we'll see, because they are in big trouble, guys. Big trouble, in my opinion. But one thing's for sure, with all of this is this.
Why would you do that? We're in the end game now.
We are in the end game of this war. That's where we are right now, and I don't know how this one ends. This thing about asylum seekers, I'll kind of nix this one, I think. All right. I want to discuss a little bit about Wes streaming, because no stream is complete without Big Wes. So let's have a listen.
Can you confirm this morning that hospices will be exempt from the rise in employer national insurance, which was announced by Rachel Reeves in the budget?
There won't be an exemption in that way, but one of the reasons I haven't yet announced the allocation for hospices is I'm looking very carefully at what we can do through the hospice grant to recognise that pressure and also recognise the underlying challenge that was set.
We're going to recognise your problems. Are we going to do anything about it? We are in the end game, effectively. That's not a joke, guys. I think in terms of this conflict, we are very much there.
Out there about the balance of state and statutory funding versus charitable contribution.
Why not just give them an exemption then, and just avoid giving them direct taxpayer money? It doesn't make sense.
What was described there, and brilliantly put, by the way, I agreed with every single word that was said. It is a reflection of the dire state of the hospice sector.
So why don't you do what he really wants, which is help him with his funding in the short term, take off the pressure which your government has added to very significantly in the budget with the moves on minimum wage. And obviously we understand the case for that, but the move on business rates, the move on minimum wage and employer national insurance. I know you're part of a cabinet and I know there's collective responsibility, but why can't you say to Brad McLean and all the people in this country who work in hospices, who are looking after dying people, that you will exempt them from the rise in employer national insurance, which could send many of them out of business?
Well, firstly, let me say on the employer national insurance decision that the Chancellor made, without the decision that she took, we would not be able to invest in our NHS as well as our other public services.
I mean, that's great, mate. We know that. Okay, whatever. What are you going to do in this specific instance, though? You didn't look at which companies or which type of businesses would require exemptions. You didn't think. You did a blanket rise in national insurance contributions. So how about you talk about how you're going to deal with a sector which deals with people probably at their most vulnerable. Hospices are places, I think, effectively where people go to die. where they'll live out their last time in this world, right? Maybe you should discuss specifically what you're going to do in this area, because what you fucks did, right? You did massive blanket changes without actually understanding the nuances of people's lives and certain industries. That's what's happened here. Just absolutely moronic. Fair enough, you can talk about inheriting a bad situation. There was around a £10 billion black hole, whatever, right? $1 trillion economy, £10 billion black hole, whatever, right? But the changes you guys made, rightfully so, increased it to about 22 point whatever billion. Fine, whatever. But you go in after, industry, like, why you didn't raise the top 5% of income tax? You box yourselves in, you clowns. That's the problem. That's the real reason you did this national insurance contribution increase. Because of the fact that you boxed yourselves in. You couldn't raise income tax, even though you should have done in certain areas. You couldn't raise national insurance, even though you could have got rid of the national insurance exemption for higher earners. You boxed yourselves in, and now you've done blanket raises in certain taxes, and now you're annoyed that there's consequences to it, and you have no actual solutions. I do wonder how much this national insurance contribution increase on hospices will actually generate for the government, because you can give that money back, sure, all you're doing is reallocating funds and increasing bureaucracy, whatever, but the fact that you didn't think of this in the first place is what's shocking to me.
In the way that the Chancellor has spelled out. And it is all very well our political opponents complaining about that decision, but they don't complain about the investment. And if they don't agree with how we're raising the money, then welcome to opposition. As we found, you have to spell out how you would find them.
I would raise the top 5% of income tax. I would align national insurance. I would align capital gains tax along with income tax. That's what I would do.
Yes, but Brad McLean's not your political opponent, as you say.
For Brad, let me just say, and for people in that position, I think the Chancellor has taken a tough but necessary decision on employers' national insurance. I recognise the pressures that places on parts of the health and care sector. That's why I'm looking through very carefully the allocations that we make across health and social.
It's going to come too late, though. It's going to come too late. You're talking about reallocating funds when they need new money, because this is a new tax, effectively, a new tax increase. Because you're going to take that money from elsewhere, which also needs the money. You need new money coming in. This is crazy. Streeting on the assisted dying bill. So you have essentially what is almost not a government flagship policy, but you have a policy which is a major change to the way things are done in this country in terms of assisted dying. And you've got the health secretary not backing it. It's kind of nuts.
Pretty clear that Karen Smith and Wes Streeting take opposing views on assisted dying. I was a bit confused by the review comment. Is there a review? Is there a review? Isn't there a review? What's going on?
So I'm going to take you through the very specific language people are using, because it's quite interesting, because I think things are getting a bit heated inside government on this subject. You just heard Karen Smith tell you, to quote, "Just to be clear, there isn't a review into the costs of the implications of the assisted dying bill." Let me read you what Wes Streeting said earlier. "Now that we've seen the bill on assisted dying published, I asked my department to look at the costs that would be associated with providing the new service to enable assisted dying to go forward." Now, if you talk to people around Wes Streeting, they say he's doing an analysis. It's not a review, because a review sounds too formal, but, we're doing an analysis.
Guys, I've just seen the funniest tweet I've ever seen. Here you have the party who obsess over, who say they don't talk about identity politics, right? Saying, Kevin Badenoch says, "I don't think he can mansplain anything to me. He's also quite cowardly because he relies on his backbenchers to attack me when I can't respond, because I can only speak to him when I'm questioning him." That has to be the most embarrassing tweet I've ever read in the history of my life. The party that don't talk about, the party that are obsessed with not talking about, things like identity politics, talking about mansplaining. It's just, wow. Wow.
One person's review is another person's analysis, I'm afraid. I don't really understand that there is a particularly formal distinction, but what I think you saw was a nervousness that there are questions being asked within government.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, does it, in that respect? Who's Bumstead? What the hell is that?
About how this is going to work. A government that's meant to be neutral because this issue is a free vote. And just take a step back to explain to viewers what's been going on with Wes Streeting today. Wes Streeting is getting punchier and punchier on the subject of his opposition to assisted dying, because he was giving that big speech today about the financial pressures on the NHS, and he came out and he said that if Parliament does authorise assisted dying, it's going to cost money. There are resource implications for doing it, his exact words. And that choice would come at the expense of other choices. If Parliament chooses to go ahead with assisted dying, it is making a choice to prioritise this as an area for investment. Now, on one level, he's just stating hard fact. There is a set budget for the NHS, and if you have to set up a new service, because it's unclear kind of which doctors would be the two doctors that authorise the right to someone to end their life, but it sounds as if there's a whole new bit of the NHS that's going to have to be created in order to do that, and it's going to cost money, which is going to mean that other priorities are going to have to be downgraded. Now, that's a fact of life, but it's also
again, like we've just discussed here, how he's talking about reallocating money for hospices, right? We're talking here about the fact that they're going to have to reallocate money for this assisting dying bill, right? And he's complaining about money and whatever, right? Surely they should have factored this in, because, Starmer, I think, made a promise to bring in a bill about assisted dying and allow a vote on it. Surely you've got to think about these things before you make such promises, no?
A pretty big argument being put up in lights by a health secretary that dislikes this, and whose deputy, who was sitting before you a few minutes ago, does not, and was really trying to downplay that element of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You really see ministers just not being used to taking different positions in the same department in health, if not, less. I guess that is the nature of a free vote.
Yeah, and talking to other people today, it sounds as if the presumption had been that this goes through. I'm just picking up from people in Labour and elsewhere. They're not so sure now.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's definitely the implication that I'm getting positions in the same department in health, if not, less. I guess that is the nature of a free vote.
Yeah, and talking to other people today, it sounds as if the presumption had been that this goes through. I'm just picking up from people in Labour and elsewhere. They're not so sure now.
Yeah.
So they've kind of botched this really badly. You've got the health secretary going against the policy within the the healthcare system, and this is probably the funniest video I've seen on this subject, on a subject that shouldn't be funny.
Wes Streeting has certainly got himself into a bit of hot water with this. Normally he's seen as one of the sort of most competent communicators in government.
If Wes Streeting is one of the most competent communicators in government, right? Just get rid of government at that point. Just start again, guys. There's new election. Anyone who's currently an MP cannot run again, and we re-roll the whole thing and we start again, because Wes Streeting is awful at communications. He's very snipey as well. I think he's a bit condescending in certain interviews that I've seen him in. I'm telling you now, yeah, bin it, start again. We re-roll the whole thing. Craziness. And discussing spending on healthcare.
Well, we spend the third most in Europe on healthcare.
Hang on.
And we have the second worst outcomes, medical outcomes, in the developed world.
Right.
So you tell me if that's...
He wants to be a Labour leader. He wants to be PM.
Rupert, I don't know where your figures are coming from, but let me just show you this graph here.
Great, I can use this.
UK spends. Now, this is publicly funded health spend per head, per capita. The most recent figures are from 2022. But you have a look at this graph. It's there in front of you, and you can see where the UK is. Behind... Right, well, I will tell you. Behind Ireland, Belgium, Denmark, Sweden, Luxembourg, France, Austria, Netherlands, and Germany. We're ahead of Finland.
It's a BBC graph.
My sources
Might as well
that
just
I
say
made
this.
it the fuck up.
When asked about his sources, Jesus.
No, we're ahead of Finland, don't be facetious, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Greece. So when it comes to spending, we are 2/3 of the way down.
At least, right. He's not as dumb. I mean, Wes Streeting is not as dumb as this guy, or as arrogant as this guy. Let's put it that way. So yeah, let's discuss the situation with farming.
In the budget, Rachel Reeves announced that from April 2026, so pretty soon, farms worth more than £1 million will face an effective inheritance tax rate of 20%, having previously been exempt. And we've heard, haven't we, farmers warning that this would make it more difficult for families to pass estates down the generations as they have done in the past. Our colleague Nick Watt at BBC Newsnight has been hearing that the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs has suggested various ways in which this policy could be softened. So perhaps you would exempt people over the age of 80 who wouldn't be able to find a way to pass down the farm in the coming years. But Treasury sources told BBC Newsnight there'll be no change to the policy. Interestingly, a lot of the focus in Westminster, and you saw it at Prime Minister's questions yesterday, understandably has been on the national insurance rise, which was the big ticket item of the budget. But actually, MP after MP from the Labour Party who I speak to says that's gone down okay among their constituents, even among small and medium-sized businesses in their constituents.
Good Lord, there's even more to discuss about the inheritance tax stuff. I'm actually running out of space here. Put this here. Put this one here. Put this one here. It's going to be a big piece, that's for sure. It's going to be a very jumbled big piece. Alright. So
Constituencies, but more and more rural MPs, and because of their success in the general election, Labour have quite a lot of rural MPs now, are warning about the damaging consequences politically.
So what Labour did, in order to help them win the election, is they tried to appeal to farmers, and now they're doing what the Tories do, which is screw the voters effectively. And what Labour are going to do, I think, towards the next election, trying to revert back to base and kind of bin off a lot of the. It's kind of like what Boris Johnson did, but I think they're going to have to do it on steroids. So in terms of they're going to bin off, certain constituencies and certain types of voters, in order to try and win the next election. I think that's what we're going to see, because I don't think they can keep this broad range of support, because it's very difficult in politics in general, but also the fact that they've openly attacked one of the bases that kind of ditched the Tories and came out to support them. And I think the ultimate winners of this will be the Yellow Party, and we'll discuss that at the end of this kind of this little bit here.
Change was coming. How did you take it?
What I really felt as I listened to it was, oh no, please don't do this. Like, just don't do this. This is a mistake. And not a mistake because I'm unduly worried about James Dyson or Jeremy Clarkson paying their fair share of tax, or other wealthy people, or even great estates, but because I knew that budget was a really, really pivotal moment in terms of our relationship between the British government and the British public and farmers, because we've just gone through this tumultuous period of about 10 years where we've changed our relationship with farmers, and farmers have taken a series of beatings which set the context for this budget. And I just... What
kind of beatings did you guys take, guys? It'd be interesting to hear. So this is, essentially, what's her name? There it is, Lisa Nandy, kind of talking to a farmer.
I'll just say to Gareth, I appreciate I'm not going to win him over on this programme, but do judge us by our actions, judge us by how...
They're literally judging you by your actions on inheritance tax. Jesus, man.
You feel in 5 years' time.
Well, okay. Gareth, do you want to respond?
I'm judging you by your actions already, with the promises that came and what you've delivered. This is going to be the last nail in the agricultural coffin.
One of the things that the government need to realise is, in 5 years' time, right, he's going to remember this, because this is the biggest change to his life. This is the biggest change to his life in terms of governmental change. In terms of the Australia deal and the New Zealand deals, they would have been slower burning because of the way the quotas were going to work. Anyways, this is direct. They will know this in terms of the way they set out things like their inheritance, their wills and things like that.
This country is going to need farmers once, twice, or 3 times every day. Food security should be at the top. You should be looking at investing into agriculture to build the better Britain on our bellies, making sure the next generation has healthy, nutritional food. But what you're doing is you're going to push people out to the industry. And my family's been on this land for 375 years. It breaks my heart to think that I could be the last generation here. I want to pass this down to my boys.
I did see a lot of talk around the fact that, this guy, he makes a lot of money, but he's worth so much every year, or he makes so much every year, but the community notes were saying he doesn't make the money predominantly from farming. He makes it off internet-based content, which I guess makes sense, because you can monetize the things that you do, just like kind of monetize me rambling about news.
and make sure that they can make a living.
All right.
You're taking that away from me,
Gareth.
and away from thousands of farmers in the United Kingdom.
Before I
Shame on you.
get Lisa to respond on that final point, particularly shame on you. Gareth, how much support, is there widespread support for this strike that you are joining?
Unbelievable, and it's not just why.
Yeah, I think you know when they talk about a series of beatings, I think Brexit is probably one of the major ones. I think this one they're trying to say it's the final straw. So I do wonder if it was the other way around. If they did this inheritance tax, say, a decade ago, and now we're going through Brexit, would they be protesting as much? I don't know.
Spread. I've got quite a big social media following, and a lot of people have been on board this morning, and a lot of the general public know there's going to be food inflations around the corner, and the poorer people, the people that Labour should be protecting, are the ones that won't be able to.
On the notion of food security, that border is so open now. That border is so open to the point where it's a lot of stuff that is coming in should not be. And that is another thing that will be undercutting farmers. But also the fact that our food security is so important, especially now that we're outside of the EU. And the fact that, you know, the government aren't really backing domestic producers is crazy to me, especially in a year. Was it this year we had the tomato shortage? Was it this year, the turnip stuff? Or was that last year? What year was it? Was it this year or last year? Okay. Jesus. It was last year. It was last year. Okay, I thought it was this year, right? But we've seen shortages. Parsnips this year. We've seen food shortages in this country because of the lack of food security and the reliance of imports. You know, like, if you cut out more farmers, you're going to see more of that, and you're going to see that more consistently. Oh yeah, I know. Oh yeah, you know. Oh, look at us, we have bell peppers as well. Red bell peppers, the best ones, the long-nosed ones. Yeah, I remember. I was there. You don't have to remind me. That was the worst timeline event.
Afford the food, because we're going to have to put a 20% hike on our foods.
All right, well, let me get...
They have to listen.
Yes.
They have to listen for once.
They starved the country more when they were getting all the goodies. I mean, they weren't getting a ton of goodies, let's be honest. Like, I don't think like they were getting like a lot out of it.
The people that are on the coalface, don't do what Margaret Thatcher did to the miners. Protect your farmers going forward. We need you to steer.
I wonder if these guys actually backed Thatcher over the miners.
Our agricultural sector for food security, to make sure we can feed the poorer people in our society.
All right, Gareth, let Lisa...
Too late.
Right, well, I mean, that is a pretty impassioned plea to you there, and shame on you.
It absolutely is. And Gareth, can I just say to you that, first of all, we did introduce a funding in the budget that is the biggest amount of funding ever committed by government for food security and nature, which we think will help significantly.
Especially when, you know, they're losing a lot of the subsidies that they got from the EU anyways as well. That's another thing. Like, they've lost so much from Brexit. If they're saying this is the final straw, then I'd be liable to believe them to an extent.
But second of all, I would just say this, that those comments that you alluded to that were made by somebody who was last a Labour advisor when I was a teenager, I think are absolutely abhorrent. I come from a mining community. The damage that Margaret Thatcher did to our community, willfully and vindictively inflicted on it.
I don't know what they're talking about here specifically.
We're still dealing with today. We would never seek to visit that on anybody. This is about trying to get our country back on track. We have inherited a difficult situation. You've just heard the opposition spokesperson telling you that he could find £8 billion worth of savings, but nowhere near the £22 billion black hole that we've inherited.
You didn't inherit that much of a black hole. It was around, I think it was around 9 or 10 billion. Well, if I say it's 12. If I say it's 12, right? It's nowhere near 22.
Just in this year alone, we've got to start turning that around. We've got to do it.
You should have addressed it. If you're so concerned about the black hole, you should have addressed it whilst you're in opposition. Just like the IFS said it. Just like Stephen Flynn said it.
In order to support people like you. And we will listen and we will work with you.
Right, Andrew, I mean, is it...
That's a huge non-answer, let's be honest. That's a huge non-answer.
It's true. On principle, why should and why is farming exempt in this way from inheritance tax, or has been?
Because food security is so vitally important to this.
It's because farmers typically vote Tory.
country and to our future. And the reason that there were exemptions around farms and farming was because of the centrally important role that sector plays in the life of our nation. And I had a meeting with farmers in my very rural constituency just last Friday, and Gareth made the case far more eloquently than I could about the actual impact.
If you cared about farmers, I'm assuming this guy's a Conservative, right? A bit dangerous, I know. You would never have backed Brexit if you actually gave a shit about farmers. You would never have kept the border as open as you have done. Like, this is crazy to me.
These decisions and the cumulative impact of not just the changes to agricultural property relief, but also national insurance increases and everything else that's coming down the line as well, being squeezed by the supermarkets as farmers have been for far too long. Energy prices out of control. A few years ago, fertiliser prices through the roof. All of the pressures being faced by the agricultural sector. The cumulative impact is becoming very difficult for farmers to deal with, but it's the sense of betrayal, because it's the sense that Keir Starmer went to the NFU conference last year and made a pledge that he would support family farms. The DEFRA secretary said there would be no change to agricultural property. He literally...
There was a clip I was going to put where Drake shouts Dave free, because that's how open our border is. But it is.
They said there will be no change, and there has now been a significant change. And Lisa talks about getting young people into farming. This is going to prevent the next generation of farmers actually getting into farming, because there's going to be a reluctance to pass down the family farm to that next generation. And young people are not enough young people are getting into the sector as it is right now. So I really do worry about what this will mean in the round for the agricultural sector.
It is a generational thing, the way that farming's passed on from one to another, and it has to be viable in that respect. This also, this is a culture war on farms as well. You got Peter Cairns saying, says a man worth over 20 million, so you'd rather Koch brothers buy up our farms and feed you. They're worth billions. So you support Clarkson brought a farm to avoid inheritance tax. Farms cost a fortune to run. It's cheaper to buy a home and pay it. I think the thing what Clarkson did was he monetized it really well. He monetized the farming with Amazon.
Feed the nation
as it is right now. So I really do worry about what this will mean in the round for the agricultural sector, for farming, and for our food security.
Well, and we've heard very much from Gareth. A final question to you, Gareth. Will your family farm be impacted by the changes on inheritance tax? We heard Lisa Nandy echoing the government's line that actually farms under £3 million will be exempted. So will it affect yours?
Yes, and I think you've got to take into consideration everything that we own. This is a working landscape. Our houses, everything that surrounds us is part of our businesses. My father's 88 and he still works 7 days a week. He's never had the passport. He's never been on holiday. He's been here to feed people affordably. That's why there wasn't inheritance tax on this land, so we could feed the nation.
Also, the fact that land is worth a ridiculous amount in this country, especially in the southeast England. So the argument about the land is worth this much or whatever. You're talking about Leslie Webster kind of discussed it on the roast a couple of weeks ago. We talk about the cost of machinery and things like that. They go up in I think it's like the hundreds of thousands. The machines, etc. Like I'm not on the side of the landowners generally. But I think in terms of farming, I'd probably back the farmers. That's unfortunate, I know. Clarkson admits he brought the farm if only for tax purposes. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. You're always going to get people who can use loopholes and things to their advantage. But if there's a ton of people doing that, then it'll be be more apparent, I think.
Audibly, that's what you want to remember. And don't forget, never bite the hand that feeds you, because I believe that the Labour government have woken a sleeping giant.
Fuck off. Actually, fuck off. Wake up a sleeping giant. Okay, buddy. You guys didn't do shit over Brexit, let's be real.
Shouldn't do that. They should be working with us.
Your last protest, Brick, mate, honestly. And this is one of the protests they've done. Apparently there's going to be bigger ones coming. This in Wales.
This government has made the one decision which is destroying the morale, the mental well-being and the economic viability of farms. We don't work for ourselves, we work to produce food for others, for an asset which will be passed on, and in the end, the alternative...
It's like they see themselves as the people who kind of hold on to the land to pass it on.
...is the fragmentation of the...
Yeah, I know, they should have been arrested, really. All of them should have been arrested and put in jail for like 5 years.
Farms bought by large companies.
I was trying to see if there's an All Might clip on to use. All Might. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if this is it. No, that's going to get me copyright claimed. That's not it. It's like there's a bit where this character talks about passing on the torch, but we'll leave that for another day. Farmers setting precedent, yeah. Farmers could block ports and disrupt food supply in budget tax changes, which again, like they didn't do much over Brexit, let's be honest, and that's the thing I think that impacted them more than this change. But I guess I don't know. They'd have to pay a certain amount of inheritance tax over a set period of time in order to inherit the land, which I don't think Farmers is making. They don't make. Well, they claim they don't make a ton of money as is, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes. The Rachel Reeves haircut is really, really going off in the Labour government. I don't know what's going on.
Labour's certainly not at war with farmers. In the budget we announced
£5
billion for agriculture to boost food security and restore nature. And the budget also protected the Welsh Government's farming budget against a really difficult economic inheritance that we received after the election from the former Conservative government.
The farmers, though, are pointing not just to the inheritance tax, which they say will wipe out some families from being in a position to pass that on, but they talk about feed costs, subsidies and fear that with these assets being taxed, it will be the final nail in the coffin for agricultural life.
I'm not seeing much on this 5 billion here. I'm just trying to find it. There's not a ton of information on where this money's actually going to go.
Well, let's deal with the facts here. If you are a farming couple, you can leave your estate to your children, and the estate can be up to £3 million in value before you start paying a single penny of inheritance tax because of all the reliefs that would be available to you. Once you do start paying inheritance tax on a value anything over £3 million, you're paying...
So it's 5 billion over 2 years. So you're talking about 2.5 billion in a year. I'm just trying to see where exactly this money is going to. Like, because they're saying it's going to farming and nature. It's not very clear.
It at 20%, which is half the rate that non-farming estates pay, because the normal rate is 40%. And additionally, you have 10 years in which to pay your inheritance tax bill. And what we do know is that around 500 farms across the UK each year will be affected by this budget change. And here in Wales, we expect...
I mean, yeah, you're putting people in a position, they've got 10 years to pay it. So if they don't generate the money in order to pay it, they're going to have to sell it. They're going to have to sell the land. And who do you think is going to buy up? It's going to be rich people. Rich people who are looking to avoid inheritance tax, potentially.
Portion of that 500 to be very small indeed because of the nature of farming in Wales, where there are lots of small farms and farm holdings. So very few are going to reach that £3 million, which is the point.
And they're talking specifically about Wales here, but I think it's South East England that are the main concern. And you got this guy tweeting here, whether he's serious or not, talking about farmers will block every road in Britain if Labour doesn't listen to them on the 19th, claims lead organiser. I mean, I don't know about that. Remember when Jeremy Clarkson said he will vote for any party which stops police running over cows? What? When do police hit cows? I'm lost, guys. So you got that one done. You got the farmer talking about it.
We're angry because we can't carry on farming anymore. It's also demoralising. You don't farm for the profits. You farm for your kids. No one owns a farm. You look after it to the next generation. When you're going to lose 20% of all you've ever worked for, your ancestors have worked for, people are very angry. So it means that
they see this very much as a generational thing. It's quite interesting, actually. A good few months ago, they see this as a generational thing where they want to pass their farms on. Like they see it as like not as a right. It's a privilege almost. Like it's it's their turn to kind of nurture the land and pass it on. It's quite hard to explain. Like it's not a community asset. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Farm every 20, 35 years or whatever, when generations change and it gets a new manager or a new person in charge, it's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. 2 or 3 generations, it's gone. The line that's came out of the government is it's only going to affect 565 farmers a year. We can't afford to lose 5 farms a year. We are a nation that's growing. There's nearly 70 million in the UK. We need to feed people, and it's farmers that produce that food.
Do you feel like Labour understands?
I mean, it's not. This is partly down. Oh, it is. I mean, 40 billion a year, I guess.
Farmers.
I don't think any government recently has understood them, but this one particularly, I think they've rushed the budget. They've not looked at the figures. I think we're the fall guys. If it's a strike that's needed, if we're not listened to on the 19th, I can see that happening, but it won't just be farmers striking, it'll be everyone around us.
Tell us a bit about the protest that you've organised for Tuesday.
I don't want to let the numbers out the bag yet, but put it this way, you won't want to buy around. We're going to have...
So you're telling me that they are preempting blocking roads? Now, the last time Just Stop Oil did that, some of them got put in jail for like 4 or 5 years. So I'm assuming this gentleman here is going to get a knock on the door from the feds, no? I don't want that to happen. But that's the law, right?
Session down Whitehall, round Parliament Square, led by children on pedal tractors. We've also got a big food bank collection as well happening here. Being farmers, we're kind of used to giving food away below the cost of production, but we want to remind the government that we produce food. We aren't rich landowners. We just look after...
I mean, you kind of are rich landowners in a sense. I get what you're saying, but you're talking about people who are, claiming to be asset rich but cash poor, effectively. And this is from DEFRA really, so that 2/3 could be caught by the tax. So the Treasury claims the change will only affect 28% of farms, but the data from DEFRA shows that 2/3 could be caught by the tax, especially as land is going to go up in value. So that's more people who are going to get caught by this. I'm sub to a guy called Funky Farmer. He has a small farm. Because the rich are buying up land as a tax charge, even small farms land now valued over $1 million, they meet the threshold. Yes, because the value of the land keeps going up. It keeps going up because of the fact that land prices in the UK are a complete joke. Maybe they can do it so like in terms of if the land's actually used for farming, they're exempt from the inheritance tax change, things like that. Like I think they should have a tax on empty properties. For example, maybe you could do a tax on empty farms. Where it's just land effectively. I don't know. I'm sure there's a way they could sort that out. It doesn't. There are changes they could make here in order to do something. That's all I'm saying. Like I don't think this is a good idea policy wise. The tax loophole is part of the problem. If only Labour went absolute, yeah. I mean, to be fair, they are complete dog shit at politics, and I've been saying that. I've been saying that for about 3 years now. And this is where we talk about the culture war. So a few farms with the most valuable assets in arms about this, and I like Zoe Gardner a lot. I think she's very she's great on asylum and things like that. But you're talking about 2/3. According to DEFRA, 2/3 could be caught by the tax. So you're not talking about a few here. You're talking about over half. We're told those with lifestyles in the country with a pony paddock need tax breaks, which again is valid. Her criticism of that is valid. She's saying, give me a break. If the so-called anti-establishment voice of the people politicians weren't a bunch of overprivileged charlatans themselves, they'd be calling this out and demanding significant increases in inheritance tax overall. But of course not. No one worries about block roads by tractors in farm protests for tax-free wealthy hoarding like they do about Just Stop Oil. And I think she's this is kind of Labour's version of the culture war. I think that's what we're seeing here. And I think they could have raised the threshold to say 5 million, for example. There are things Labour could have done effectively in order to alleviate this. Could have done based on region, based on land costs, etc. Labour win power with shrewd and callous methods, then put out policy that say how fast can we mess this up. It's not the Labour Party. I think they boxed themselves in during the campaign, and I did say that. I remember saying that a lot, and it wasn't just me; it was other people as well. Not Nostradamus out here. It was obvious.
Stings, doesn't it?
For those people that kind of gassed up Labour, where are they at on these policies now? All they do is obsess about talking about the far right, which is fair enough. But I heard, from what I remember, people are saying, they were going to push Labour to the left and hold them accountable. I mean, I'm not really seeing that. I think food security is very important. Stuffing farmers, putting them out of business does not sound smart to me. I mean, to be fair, yeah, in Labour's defence, right? In Labour's defence, right, and it's a very rare defence of the Labour Party, right? Nobody said they were smart. No one said the Labour Party was smart. So if we're saying things like it doesn't sound very smart to do this thing, right? I don't think, given the fact that the party couldn't even sort out their comms team, which is a basic politics, right? Which is one of the things that we learned under Tony Blair, right? Right? No one can argue that the Labour Party is smart. So therefore, right, anyone who thinks that, oh, this is a dumb policy and sounds surprised by it, you shouldn't be surprised. We go to our State Secretary of Surprises, our expert.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
That's it. I'll play it again.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Our expert on surprises is not surprised by this. No, neither should anyone be. This is idiotic.
It feels to me that, like, some people are saying, look, this is really a very fair policy. Some people are using it as a tax dodge. Others are saying that actually, look...
Yeah, where are they at? I'm not even a Labour supporter. I'm calling this out. Where are they? Where are the goons? Where's the goons? Maybe they're on a remote island and they can't do content about this stuff. They're a private island, maybe. I don't know. I don't know where they at. Labour need to be very quickly make every day. Yeah, that's what they need to focus on. Make people's lives better. The minimum wage increases are good. If they could have raised that lowest band of tax, the national income tax, I think that would have been ideal.
Look, this is going to cripple family farms. Where do you stand on it, James?
Well, I spent a couple of years at DEFRA when Michael Gove was there, and I think number one, farmers have a huge role. So they spread way beyond their own communities in farming shops and so on in the way of life. That's one thing. But that's on an observation on a comms thing, on the actual inheritance and the fact that some people,
Speaking of private islands,
kind of use it to pass on money without paying. That's true, but none of the groundwork was laid beforehand, and I think that's why we've seen this trail of 2 weeks from the budget. That actually some of the explanation about why this change was made is coming actually kind of 10 days after the actual budget was announced. And so to me, there's certainly a bit of a comms issue. I mean, people always like to blame comms. As someone that used to do comms, and I don't think it always is, but I think in this case there was a bit of a
I didn't mention any names of people on private islands who are, raising money to restore their private islands and may rent out their private islands to holiday goers. I didn't make any specific comment about anyone specifically. So yeah, that's up to you guys.
Comms issue and just kind of explaining it.
I guess if I was on my private island, if I had one, in theory, hypothetically speaking, in the words of Ben Shapiro, would I be looking at pushing Labour to the left on certain policies, or would I be enjoying my break, or would I be hypothetically asking, members of my audience to fund my lifestyle on my private island? Because I don't want to fund that myself, and I want you goons to do it. What would we say about such a person? Speaking about funding, there's memberships and super chats available. If you enjoy my glib comedy, ain't gonna happen. They're so arrogant, cling on to the quad rails as the ship goes down. The hell's a guardrail? What's a quad rail? Can't read.
I think wider is, I'd ask myself if I was in the Labour Party is this hassle, which I think people will remember in quite a few years, they won't forget, is it worth 700 million, which in the budgetary terms is not a huge amount.
700 million is nothing.
That's money.
No running
water.
water.
Have you got many farms in your constituency?
There are some, and I'm actually meeting with...
That I have no idea about. The no running water, I'm not speaking about anyone specific.
And a few reps and going to one of the farms on Friday. And it's important that we do listen to those that may be impacted by this. But look, we've made it really clear that it is the richest estates that this is going to impact, and not the family farms. And there's billions of pounds going into the farming industry. We're also looking at obviously bringing down energy bills for farms and ensuring that they can tap in to the grid. And we're also looking at making sure that 50% of the food that prisons, hospitals and military bases purchase come from British farms. So there's also a lot we're doing for farms, and obviously and military bases purchase come from British farms. So going into the farming industry, we're also looking at obviously bringing down energy bills for farms and ensuring that they can tap in to the grid. And we're also looking at making sure that 50% of the food that prisons, hospitals and military bases purchase come from British farms. So there's also...
Okay, I mean, that bit's fine, I guess. I mean, but the thing is, if you're killing off farmers and, you're not doing things like dynamic alignment with the EU in order to help them, gain a new export market, I guess buying up their stuff would help them. I don't know, it seems a bit... I don't know about all that. free islands for all under our glorious Labour Socialist Utopia. Hey, I'll take an Italian island if they're going.
A lot we're doing for farms, and obviously, that needs to cut through too, and that could be the comms issue that you're talking about.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? Labour, there's a few more Labour MPs with rural constituencies as well after the election, right? Much more than previously as well. Is there? I mean, it's funny, isn't it?
Hypothetically, would such a Labour voter, run for another party because the party that they say they support now, was against the policy that they backed? I don't know. Hypothetically, in theory, what would we say about such a person?
Because there's a balance, talk about the comms thing, in budgets, isn't there, between trailing things, getting the bad news out early so you can manage the story in the day, and really winding up the speaker. He's already told Labour off for not saying enough on the day. Would you just ignore him then, James?
I was going to make that point, actually. if we push too much out before budget, we'll end up getting our hands stung, consistently by the speaker. So it is important that we're not...
Well, you could have announced it in the manifesto.
Setting.
It's true. I mean, even I wouldn't want to upset Lindsay. But I think on this one, I do think the groundwork had been laid more. And I get it that it's a balance and there was a lot of things to do. And I think they did do that with kind of NI, so businesses knew it was coming, as difficult as that was.
Hold on, they didn't announce they were going to do an NI change before the election.
To a degree. But I just think on this, the fact you're explaining it 10 days later, to me, having done comms, that tells me that hasn't been...
Failure. Big failure, that's what that tells me. This from More in Common.
You're saying it's just going to pan out. DEFRA and Treasury at the war. I mean, this doesn't sound like this has been a successful sort of measure from the Treasury. And again, I made this point last time I was on Newsnight, they were throwing out so many policies ahead of that particular budget. I think this was rushed. I don't think it was particularly planned. I think they were hoping it was going to be inheritance tax they'd go on. I think they were hoping their Labour voters wouldn't care about this, but actually polling by More in Common last weekend said the majority of this country's voters do not agree with what's happening with farmers, and that over half of Labour's voters think that this was a wrong move by the Treasury.
Okay.
So again, they fumbled this real bad. They have fumbled the situation really badly, and I think the media are going to keep running with Labour's missteps because they do make a lot of them, but the media only run on certain policies, if that makes sense. And so because Labour are not embroiled in scandals like the Tories are, it gives news cycles a much longer cycle, and I think this will stick into people's memories. I've no idea how to make money off the fly to South America, pay for Wi-Fi, can't be just super chats. Hey, I'll take a super chat, I'll tell you if you guys drop me some. Begging, what's the word? Shamelessly. Whatever happened to shame? Yeah, I don't want to comment on individual people and the amount of money they make from YouTube. But, some people do make a lot and some don't. But it's not important. So this clip's probably the darkest one of the lot, I think. Should we play this one last? Yeah, we'll play it last because it's a bit dark. This is Starmer running from a conference. This is today, yeah.
Hundreds of farmers have gathered here. They've come in convoy from farms around about in their farm vehicles, in their...
To the clown playing the horn, right? Yeah, you've got people covering the event, which is what you want. You want free publicity. Motherfucker, can you not do that in future if you're watching this?
Tractors. They are hoping to get their message across to the Prime Minister, who we understand has already left.
I can see why people hate the pro-EU guy.
And we know from inside that the Prime Minister did not mention the farmers at all. I'm going to bring in Gareth Wyn-Jones now, live on...
If the audio is unlistenable, let me know and I'll just nix this one.
Sky News. He's actually just sorting out a meeting, aren't you, Gareth, with...
That was the phone call that we've had the heads up that we're going straight in.
Sky looks familiar.
To meet Leonard Morgan at 11:30.
I don't know, I might get copyright for this. This will be hilarious.
So 3 of us have been invited in.
The First Minister of Wales.
First Minister.
How did you feel that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, didn't even mention...
This guy's playing Pitbull. This guy's playing Pitbull on the stupid horn thing. This is crazy business.
...farmers during his speech then.
Disrespectful with so many people that have come here to air their frustrations, their problems. He had an opportunity to come out and address the crowd. You know, even if he was booed, he should have been man enough to come out here and talk to the people. You know, he's been voted in by people. He should listen to the people, and these are the people that are feeding them every day. It's so frustrating that he's run out the back door.
Big Theresa May vibes, that.
Like a flipping rat. People here have come here to talk to him. They've come here.
Yeah, I try not to run mid-roll ads, to be fair. I hate mid-roll ads with a burning passion. They triggered me so bad I actually got YouTube Premium because I use YouTube that much. It's the only streaming platform I actually use. Like, everything I care about is basically on YouTube, apart from anime. That's it. Everything else is on YouTube.
Here to address their frustrations, and he didn't even have the guts to come and just address them. It didn't have to be a big talk. He could have just come here and said, we're listening, we're here for you. No, he shot out the back door with his security, and he's gone back to his London hideout instead of facing up.
I mean, he's gone back to number 10, mate.
To the people and
It's not really a hideout. We know where he lives. Is the pro-EU guy retired or something? He's always there. Who's the pro-EU guy?
making sure that we know what's been said and what's been done. We have no idea. And, you know, to put a speech like that in a rural area...
Guys, yeah, just for future reference, like, so I want to address this. If you're at a protest, right, and you can see the news organisations there, yeah, please don't be making noise over the people being interviewed, because how's anyone supposed to hear? Especially if you're going to play bloody Pitbull.
Not mentioning farmers, it just shows you what this man is. He's showing no respect and not having the opportunity to speak or to listen to us.
He mentioned he's had to make some tough tax decisions, the government have, and it's inheritance tax, isn't it, and the changes for farmers that you're all so concerned about.
Yes, and for us, you know, that 20% on our farms is going to either mean we're going to have a 20% inflation on food. Now, what's that going to hit?
20% inflation in food? They're going to put prices up by that much?
It's going to hit the poorer people in society. That's what Labour should be supporting, because our businesses...
This is so annoying. I'm trying to guess what songs he's playing. It's pissing me off now.
Will not be able to go forward. We're on our knees, you know, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's at one of the lowest edges ever. Mental health...
I can't. I'm struggling to get through this. I don't know what song he's playing. I've guessed one. Can you guys guess the rest? Genuinely?
Got so many charities that are trying to protect people. People are taking their own lives. People are depressed. People are unhappy, and people are unsure.
Is he playing Old MacDonald Had a Farm? Is he? Oh my days! I'm finished. I don't know if I can carry on with this stream, guys. I don't know if I can keep doing this. I can't keep doing this, guys. This is he's playing Old MacDonald and bloody Pitbull. I can't. This is crazy business. This is serious protest, guys. At least put some Dre on. Or put some Kendrick on, or some Drizzy, you know. This is a serious protest here. Wonder how many the Fox Hunting Brigade, probably quite a lot, probably a few. Was Nightcrawlers earlier. I'm losing the will to live here.
Future of food production.
And very quickly, what do you say to the
that's
First Minister when you get inside?
We're going to air our frustrations about inheritance tax, and we're going to talk a bit about the SFS, which is the Sustainable Farming Scheme in Wales. We're going to talk about...
Alright, what's this one then, guys?
About envies.
Might as well have fun with this. What's he playing now?
And we're going to talk about TB. These are all relevant to Wales, but the main point is the inheritance tax. We are going to put as much pressure on the Welsh Government as the British Government to change this absolutely ridiculous new policy and law.
Thanks for joining us live on Sky News. And the farmers' message here is that this is just the start of it, because next week they are planning their first strike action, so we could see potentially some food...
Is that a Palestinian flag there?
...shortages and tens of thousands...
He's playing Pitbull again. We've gone full circle. He's playing Pitbull again. He's playing Hotel Room by Pitbull. This is crazy business. This is the last clip we're going to discuss on this specific subject.
Would you be able to say something about any conversation you've had with your son or your daughter about the succession, given the changes to APR and BPR in the budget?
To be fair, my children are very, very young, so I've not really been able to have that conversation. But one thing I will say is I've got a funeral to attend because of this budget.
Has a farmer already taken his life?
I've heard of 4, but one of them's a friend of mine.
And who do you blame for that?
Well, I know who he blames, but yeah.
Yeah,
it's dark. It's dark. That's dark. And this is what I mean about a culture war here. You got someone rightfully so mentioning, what about disabled people who took their lives when the Tories brought in absolutely horrendous and demonising welfare reform when they brought in PIP? Oh yeah, you don't get. They're the ones who continued voting Conservative. Typically, farmers kept voting back Conservatives. But this is the point. We don't get anywhere by creating kind of a circular, firing squad like this. I think you got to show solidarity to people, and you hope that they do the same for you. You hope that they do. What about austerity exactly? That's something that should be discussed in tandem with these kind of policies. It was Nightcrawler's Pitbull probably sampled it. Oh, okay. Probably ruined it because he's Pitbull. And this is the real winner. This is the real winner from all of this. You got Tim Farron saying, when Kemi Badenoch had the power to actually help British farmers as Trade Secretary, she instead chose to throw them under the bus when backing Australia and New Zealand trade deals. Farmers need and deserve genuine allies. And so, someone saying the majority of farmers back Brexit, and then Tim Farron saying not round here. So, yeah. This is the Lib Dems are the real winners here. Hello, Mr. Kerr. I can't pronounce your first name. Now I know how other people feel when they read my name. So we're going to go to probably our last big topic. Then we've got some smaller ones again to discuss. This is Andrew Bailey discussing Brexit, which is very rare.
Now, I've said many times as a public official, I take no position on Brexit per se, and that's very important.
You literally back Brexit, pal. That's a straight lie. Let's see. You actually backed it? What, before you were in charge of... before you were in the position you're in now? So, straight... I guess we're starting with lies here. I can't find the thing, but I remember reading about it at the time. He backed Brexit, so, again, you did take a position on it initially.
But I do have to point out consequences. The changing trading relationship with the EU has weighed on the level of potential supply. The impact on trade seems to be more in goods than services, which I don't think is particularly surprising. But it underlines why we...
the services will get hit soon. Don't worry about that, pal.
Must be alert to unwelcome opportunities to rebuild relations while respecting that very important decision of the British people.
So this is the big speech kind of to the city, the Mansion House speech. And so Bailey urging ministers to rebuild relations with the EU, warning Brexit's undermined the UK economy. This is what we've covered, but this is CAP basically, and this is kind of the BBC discussing it.
There isn't, because I can pick up, because your leader has said he wants better relations with the EU. So can you tell me what it would look like? Imagine you've got them.
Yeah.
What do you do with the better relations?
Well, look, our prosperity and our security intertwine both Europe and the United States. When it comes to Europe, work for a close security relationship, as you saw last week. Keir was at the Armistice service within France, and more broadly, when the TCA is up again, to have better veterinary standards, aligning other...
you could start negotiating that now, though. That's the thing. Like, if you wanted to go for dynamic alignment... Yeah, it's Paddy, yeah. I thought I recognised him.
And as well, to have that closer trading relationship. And the other side, we should not forget, the other things Rachel was talking about, the Chancellor, to get more investment in this country.
Right.
The thing is, Labour have ruled out dynamic alignment with the EU. On farming, I believe. They want equivalency. And we'll be discussing stuff around deregulation soon.
We have the lowest investment rate in the G7. The reforms today will get more investment, growth and wages that we should...
I don't know. I'm not seeing it from on that side.
It's in the City of London.
Do you know what? Let's see if I can find the clip about deregulation. So yeah, in terms of getting a deal on services from the EU, it's not going to happen. because the fact that we helped set up Solvency II. So the fact is we helped set up. Oh, this is not the right one. That's the other person. This is the one I wanted. Sorry guys, trying to do this on the fly. It's a bit difficult. This is it. Oh my god, I'm having a meltdown here. So I want this to be here, yes. So in terms of discussing things like, regulations and alignment and stuff, this is kind of the UK's take on financial services.
For Wall Street, bankers were the epitome of everything wrong with our economy and society. If you worked in a bank from 2008 to 2015, you're probably pretending at dinner parties that you worked in a more popular profession. Car salesman, maybe a journalist.
No, I don't think you guys were that popular either, considering you guys did a shit job with the financial crash as well.
That era, though, it seems, has now gone. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is making a speech tonight at Mansion House. Well, she'll say regulation went too far in the wake of the financial crash. The UK has been regulating for risk but not regulating for growth, she'll say, and the UK's status as a global financial centre can't be taken for granted. Now, financial services...
I think we could have done that. We could have got removed the banker's bonus anyways, outside the EU. So, I don't think removing it is a Brexit benefit at all.
Contribute about £170 billion to the economy, about £29 billion in taxes. That pays for an awful lot of schools and hospitals.
What was the cost of the financial crash, though, Sophie? How much did that cost the economy?
Almost certain be yelps from some. Are we really?
How much are the greedy interest rate rises? How much is that costing the economy as well?
Back to rewarding traders making a swift buck, betting against the economy, or taking advantage of people struggling to get a mortgage? Wasn't it a lack of regulation that got us into this mess in the first place?
Okay, fair. You got me there.
But right now, Rachel Reeves needs a way to fire up the economy.
Deregulating is not the idea here. Anyone who voted for Labour and is backing policies like this, is deep down a fucking moron.
We all saw those anemic growth projections at the budget, so now it's all about
this is how you accentuate a boom bust cycle. Because all that's going to happen is rich people will make more money off things like assets and investments, and there'll be a big crash. Guarantee it's going to happen in America because of the way Trump keeps deregulating. They're going to hit a big crash. Bam! Who's going to pay for it? The average American.
buttering up a banker, sweet-talking a stockbroker, politics. It goes in circles, doesn't it?
Really does. Really does. Yeah, he had been the first half, not going to lie.
Then he said Britain should seek to rebuild.
Let's see if there's anything interesting here.
On Brexit. So what's he up to?
Geez, my boy.
So the context here, this is the Mansion House speech. Really important, strategic speech to the financial community from the Chancellor and from the Governor of the Bank of England. And when I've asked the Governor of the Bank of England about Brexit, always diplomatic, often quite...
Yeah, don't worry, guys. Scotland's going nowhere. I wouldn't be too concerned. Northern Ireland's the big concern. So, in terms of GB's not going anywhere, but the United Kingdom might be.
Quite shy to talk about it. Not so much there in terms of the impact economically. I think he would argue he was just making a statement of economic reality and no sort of political intervention. But I was very struck by those words, welcome opportunities to rebuild UK-EU relations and be alert for them too, suggesting that there could be more ambition, particularly for a government that's seeking any lever for economic growth. And the context here is, of course, that everybody in that room, all the financiers, will be thinking about Donald Trump and his potential trade war and tariffs, and the idea that the United Kingdom, although it doesn't want to have to make a choice, might have to make a choice between the stated government priority, which is a closer relationship with the European Union, or trying to get close to Donald Trump to stop these tariffs applying to the UK.
Yeah, Chris, Rachel Reeves was there as well, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah, so she was giving her annual speech at this same event, speaking in the last half hour, with economic growth, the central mission, as the government describes it, that it's attempting to deliver on, with this dilemma coming and potentially a big choice coming on that relationship with Brussels and a relationship with Washington and how you attempt to square both of those. Here's what she had to say about that.
I look forward to working closely with President-elect Trump and his team to strengthen our relationship in the years ahead. And of course, our biggest trading partner is the European Union. We will not be reversing Brexit or re-entering the single market or customs union, but we must reset our relationship.
Now, we've heard repeatedly, haven't we, and it's worth emphasising that for lots of people, Brexit was not purely about economics, it was about culture, it was about sovereignty, it was about taking control. And there you have the Chancellor sticking to the plan, the promise that the UK won't re-enter the big economic constructs of the European Union, but wants this so-called reset. But what can that actually...
Trump isn't going to listen to Starmer. I think that's the biggest lie I've ever heard. I want to listen to client journalists' opinions. They always tell it as it is. True. I wouldn't be disrespecting Faisal Islam, though. He's pretty good. I'm going to choose the EU over Trump. I mean, I'd always choose the Donald Trump. He's done the double. He's won. And in 5 years' time, he's going to get rid of... No, in a few years' time, he'll get rid of the 28th Amendment and he'll do the triple.
The amount to, and how big a contribution can it make towards economic growth? Then, how might the EU respond to any tariffs, import taxes that are imposed by the incoming Trump administration? And how does the UK respond to that? And you come back to that dilemma again.
Yeah, this is something I saw Phil talking about a while ago about, the tariffs and stuff like that. The UK, because we're a relatively small player, maybe we can avoid it. I don't know. I disagree. Scotland will be independent from the UK. I see a united Ireland first. Scotland, what's it say? Or Scotland, agree. Ireland is a problem for Westminster. I don't know, guys. I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. Why do you have to respect a decision made 8 years ago? Because Labour and the Lib Dems failed to call for a mandate to... Well, to be fair, I don't blame the Lib Dems on this one. I blame the Labour Party. So I don't know. Seem to be disagreeing with a lot of people nowadays. Step up Brexit or European allies will lose patience, Starmer warned. Step up Brexit reset even, or European allies will lose patience. I think the fact that the UK didn't accept that visa agreement, I think that's going to be a sticking point. We got Mr. War Criminal discussing this.
And when you look, yes, America is a hugely important partner. When you look at the both trade,
all of that podcast money, and you don't have a tripod.
Import and export. The European Union remains our most important trading partner. We have fundamentally damaged that relationship through Brexit, through the bad deal that was done by Boris Johnson, and through the failure of politics generally to address what remains a huge drag on our economy.
With the single market stuff, we discussed it before. I'm not going to waste my breath on that too much. With the customs union, again, we could have entered into a customs union for sure.
Much was clear from the OBR report yet again this year. It gets next to no coverage. I think it was good of Andrew Bailey finally to come out and say what we all know. Brexit has really damaged trade. But I was disappointed by the fact that Rachel Reeves everybody's acknowledging the problem, but not actually addressing it. So I think we've just got to, not be bullied, not be intimidated, not be pushed around by America. We have to maintain good relations with both.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the US might try and make us pick a side, but to be fair, Trump didn't really do that massively in his last time. I think he's going to be busy dealing with other stuff. So I don't know. He's going to be saber rattling. I think he's going to be too busy saber rattling with Iran and Iran and China. I think he's also going to be busy trying to deal with the war in Ukraine as well. Hopefully, we're too much of a small fish for him to care about us that much.
His job to maximise the performance of our economy, to make the financial health of this country as robust as it can possibly be. So why does he still think he has to be neutral on the biggest issue of our time?
Because he saw what they did to Mark Carney. That's why he wants to be neutral on it. The press absolutely battered that man. They were like, oh, he's Canadian. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The press and the politicians went after him. That's why he wants to stay neutral on this.
The governor of the Bank of England is still frightened of the Daily Mail. The governor of the Bank of England is still frightened of the Daily Telegraph. So he nibbles at the edges of the truth, but insists that he cannot say it out loud because...
he wasn't nibbling at the edges of the truth. He was saying, the UK needs a reset. That's not nibbling. That's telling us, we need to move in a different direction.
Doesn't want to be on the front page of a mass-selling newspaper, essentially being treated like a judge in 1930s Germany, or indeed a judge in 2016 by Paul Dacre. Enemies of the people, crush the saboteurs. Hey, you can have some sympathy for him in that position, but someone...
What specifically do you want him to do, buddy?
Someone's going to have to grow a pair soon.
Yeah, it's not going to be him. It's the guy you voted in charge. That's the guy who's going to have to do something about it. That's not Bailey's job. Bailey's job is to look after the financial sector predominantly in the UK. It's not his job to rebuild relationships with the EU. Do you want him to go discuss with von der Leyen about, improving relationships with the financial sector? Are you on crack? Especially when you got Rachel Reeves talking about deregulating the financial sector.
In that kind of job. I take no position on Brexit, but it's bloody awful.
That he's inherently taken a position on it if he's calling it out.
It's mad, right?
Oh, this guy, he's not a clown. He's the entire circus. Jesus Christ, man. He's Irish, He's Irish. I want you guys to remember that. He's Irish. Have I said that enough times? He's Irish. So here, Reeves tells city regulators to encourage more risk-taking in financial sector. Says, do you know what? Fuck this. Actually, do you know what? This pairs with a really a good thing actually I read today. Well, I didn't put it in the stream, but I should have done. Rachel Reeves, pension. Here we go. Pension reform. We got it, ladies and gentlemen. We got it. Another additional tab to add to all my tabs. Rachel Reeves wants mega pension funds to invest in infrastructure, right? So what she wants to do is pull up all these pensions together, so it could unlock £80 billion of investment. This is what the Tories were talking about, right? So not only does she want to deregulate the industry, right? She wants to deregulate the city, right? She wants mega pension funds. Geez, I wonder where that went wrong. Was it during the early 2000s? Where a pension fund went bankrupt? Didn't we just see pension funds, take a massive hit under Liz Truss? Liz Truss. Pension collapse. This is not the thing I wanted. Let's see, what was it called? What was the company name? Fuck, I can't find it. There was a big one. Sounded like it was a healthcare company. I can't remember what it was. It was during the early 2000s, but essentially what you're talking about is deregulation and a massive coupling of pension funds. Like this is idiocy. But she worked for the Bank of England, right? So what do I know? This is the same thing. This is the same thing that the Tories are trying to do. Merge. Rules. Liquid assets. There's something, I can't remember. The Tories want to change the rules on pension funds investing in illiquid assets like wind turbines and stuff. Fuck, I can't find it. And it would have caused a big collapse. Reagan gambled away. James O. Brexit is Phil Morehouse with more viewers, loads of opinions and criticism of government, unless the government appears to be Labour. Yeah, I agree with that. Be a disaster in my opinion. This is a joke. That's what this is. Is that relevant? Yeah, it's kind of relevant to this. And he got the people talk about it.
And let's not forget that every time the Office of Budget Responsibility do a fiscal forecast, they say that Brexit has led to a 4% hit to GDP. Yep. Andrew Bailey there, not wanting to take sides, but saying it is in our economic interest to have a stronger relationship with the EU. But those remarks by the Governor and those remarks by the Chancellor show that we really are heading to a very big moment. And the government is thinking very hard about how it forges a good relationship with Donald Trump. I was talking to one member of the cabinet today and they say we're working on it, fingers crossed. Right. But the other thing is there is this reset with the European Union, and the big question as Donald Trump potentially moves towards imposing tariffs is, do we cut a deal with the US or do we try and move towards the European Union? And the view in government seems to be, as Peter Mandelson said this week, let's have our cake and eat it. Let's ride both horses to have.
Oh yeah, that's gonna end real well. Like the EU and the US are full of idiots.
Mixed metaphor.
Cakeism's back, sir.
I know. Is it 2019 all over again?
Is it? I can't take 2019 again. Is it the fork in the road moment that I grew up with as a young man all those years ago?
Now it's possible you can play both sides. Middle Eastern countries did it really well during the Cold War. So it's very possible. But I think the EU are going to make us pick a side. I think that's what's going to happen. But both sides will make us pick one. They're not idiots.
Go. Do we link with the US? Do we link with Europe? I wasn't a young man then. Is Britain back to a fork-in-the-road moment with the election of Donald Trump?
I don't think so. And I think the reason is that what you heard the Governor of the Bank of England there talking about was goods, not services. If the UK wants to do a trade deal, any kind of trade deal with the US, it's going to be about services, because the barriers that existed in 2019, sorry to mention that again, but 2019, when we tried to do that trade deal with Donald Trump, it was all about agriculture and pharmaceuticals. That hasn't changed. In fact, with such a strong mandate, it's probably even more difficult.
It is true. It's very possible, you know.
So if they do want a trade deal, they should focus on services. And when it comes to goods, I think what the governor has done, to Nick's point, is can see a big open go here and is going to kick the ball straight into it because of where the government is and where the politics are.
Yes,
if there was a Conservative government, it would not be...
It's very interesting, actually. You've got Sebastian Payne here, who ran to be a Tory, kind of bigging up the government. Very interesting. Rules imposed after the financial crash have gone too far, insists Rachel Reeves. So this is talking about the financial stuff specifically. Oh no, more deregulation for vultures. Most post-2008 crash reforms are reversed. Shadow banks unregulated. Bonus caps abolished. When will the next crash be? And that's the question. American food standards is honestly dog shit, mate. Starmer is a fighter, though. When you look at him, you see a warrior, a rock, I'm not going to say that one because that's sus. He will stand up and fight, yeah. Is that Harry Potter's dad? It's Will from the In-Betweener's dad. Is he a cut? No, he didn't make it. He didn't make the cut. So UK economic growth slows down to 0.1% between July and September. Obviously, that coincides with the riots as well, but not great. Reeves talking about this.
Growth is the #1 mission of this government, to turn around the poor performance of the last decade or so. Am I satisfied with the numbers published today? Of course not. I want growth to be stronger, to come sooner, and also to be felt by families right across the country, which is why in my Mansion House speech last night, I set out an ambitious set of reforms to the pension system to unlock long-term patient capital, up to £80 billion of it, to invest in start-up and scale-up businesses.
What happens when those scale-up businesses collapse, though?
And in the infrastructure needs of our country.
I don't think it's a good idea, to be honest with you. We'll keep that one last, and then, yeah. So we've discussed this one already. This is the one, someone from the industry talking about it.
You could have making the points about the sort of different regulations coming together, and also about, some of the things that feel more onerous on UK banks compared to other countries. I guess the kind of counter-argument to that is that we all remember what happened during the financial crash, people losing their homes, run on banks that was stopped. It was a very kind of bruising and troubling period that
the financial crash really opened the door for austerity as well. I really hope people don't forget that.
Many people they're still kind of recovering from. The idea of getting rid of some of that regulation feels pretty scary.
Well, you can take these arguments any way you like. I don't think anybody should walk away from the fact that we did have a very difficult time during the banking crisis. And the actions...
Because it was predominantly down to rules not being strong enough.
...of some bankers and some banks were, quite frankly, wrong and caused this country a problem. And that's...
A problem is downplaying it massively.
...happened, of course, in many countries. I know we are bothered about what happens here, but, we're also very much an international market. Now, because something was wrong then, and because actions were taken to put it right, doesn't mean that you then make rules tighter and tighter and tighter, which only have the result of constraining the...
So what we're talking about is Rachel Reeves discussing getting rid of some regulations, yeah? This lady here talking about rules getting tighter. We're not discussing the rules becoming harsher. We're talking about the rules becoming lower. We're talking about deregulation, not increasing regulation. This is ridiculous.
Economy, they don't give any more security to you or me or anybody else that might borrow money. And our financial market is about financing the economy, about financing companies. So you've got that whole piece that is all about the business finance, as well as the retail, as well as the international piece. And they need different rules to themselves. And some of those...
Would you...
It's annoying she hasn't got a full clip here. I think she was going to ask, what do you want to deregulate? Let's see if they've got the full... Have they got the full interview on Sky? Nah, you cucks. You haven't even... Oh, my days. This is hilarious. I love this. This is great. Have them all as trading cards. It's ridiculous. I couldn't get a full interview clip, but the question is, what would you deregulate? I wish there was a longer one. It's annoying. Sky needs to do better at this, in my opinion. And it's the final piece of the day, I guess. Teachers forced to wash school students' uniform and install washing machines in schools due to hygiene poverty. I mean, this is the so-called 7th richest economy in the world. You know, you got a situation where it's just baffling. Like, this should not be a thing. You know, you got people talking about here, you know, like poverty is one of the biggest problems in the UK. Honestly, this guy laughing about it with his Templar fit on. I guarantee if the country got invaded, he wouldn't do shit. Crazy business. This honestly just it's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. But yeah, that's all the tabs done. I think we've done well. I think it's about about an hour and 45, which seems to be the normal stream time for me. I think about an hour and hour and 45. So not much more to discuss here. I'm not on the roast tomorrow. I'm not sure who's on it. So just watch it. It'd be a big surprise. I had to go to my friend's wedding on Thursday, so I couldn't be on it. Americans have learned a lot about differences in food stuff, where they have to store eggs in the fridge and we don't. Yeah, they do learn a lot when they visit Europe, to be fair. Labour should get an overdraft from the bank. I think we're in the overdraft, to be fair. But yeah, not much more to say. I think on this one, I'm pretty knackered, guys. Can't lie. I had a long nap during the day as well, but body is completely cooked. So yeah. Anyways, not much more to say. Apart from like, comment, share, subscribe. If you are watching this back, I do appreciate you. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, watch the Sunday race tomorrow. And I guess that's me done. And I'll catch you guys hopefully next Saturday.
See you, chump.
Play that again because I enjoy this clip so much.
See you, chump.
But yeah, I'll catch you guys next week. Bye-bye.